All right, welcome back to this new edition of Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Cameron Honesty, joined as always by my co-host, Cannon Torres. So, Cannon, obviously, we're going to get into a deep dive of A&M's 34-17 win over Florida in Week 7, but we're going to start off with some commitment news. After the win, I think you and I both suspected it would either be there was a couple names that could have been, down the barrel that would have committed after the game. This time it was another Georgia prospect. A&M has dominated in that region. It's unbelievable how much success they've had. In 2027 four-star defensive lineman, defensive tackle, defensive lineman, you want to see his versatile guy, Elijah Patman, who, I've seen some of his film. I've watched him for a while, and this is a potential game record at the next level. He's a perfect prospect for what they want to do defensively. He fits that Mike Elko mold. And again, I got to give kudos to Sean Spencer and Tony Girardetti because these guys have been just fantastic in gaining relationships with these guys and competing with the likes of Georgia, Alabama, the top tier blue bloods, especially Georgia in that state that should be dominating in that area. It's just been A&M is late. But I'll get you in on this. What do you have to tell the people about what they're getting in Patton? I mean, obviously, it's a while away until he signs with the team, but right now, we do believe this is a guy who's going to stick to his commitment just because, again, strong relationship, likes what he's seeing defensively. What would the Aggies be getting in Patman?
Yeah, so Patman is, he's 6'4", over 300 pounds, coming out of Warner Robins in Georgia, and he committed prior to kickoff. So he stated really over his social media that A&M was just that home-like feel, and it was the right place for him because they just treated him like he treated his family. He just loves it in Aggie land. And it was really the reason that he was able to commit. Got him over the edge. I really want to say that a lot of credit goes to Trooper Taylor and new coach Pop Cooney, who came over from Miami. They were reportedly the ones who were leading the charge with Patman in this recruitment, and they got it done pretty quick. So Patman joins the Aggies class. I think he's the fourth commitment in the 2027 class. With Jace Johnson, Hakeem Frampton, and Demarion Johnson, and he'll slide in at around the second highest rated recruit on their commitment list so far. But like you said, there's a long way to go until signing day in next cycle. So we'll see where this one goes. I really, really do like what he can add to the Aggies defensive line group.
Yeah, as we know, and that's a good point. So Pop Cooney and like the Trooper Taylor have been obviously different position coaches. Cooney's really their primary recruiter, one of those guys helping out behind the scenes with all this kind of stuff, and has coaching ability as well. Trooper Taylor, I think he's still serving as assistant head coach, running back coach. Extremely important to on field and off field. So it's not surprising to hear those names involved in recruiting for any of these prospects because relationships are relationships. Buying into A&M is everything. Yes, working with those position group coaches is important, but at the same time, if you watched A&M at all for the last, I would say probably 3 SEC games when their defense really started to play at that elite level, especially the defensive line, you're seeing sacks, you're seeing pressures, you're seeing TFLs, you're seeing guys playing together. And if you're a young prospect watching that in Kyle Field where it's loud as hell, you can barely hear yourself talk, and you're watching out on the field and these guys celebrating, having a good time, and dominating the opponent, it's always going to result in commitments, and that's been the case for A&M the last 2 seasons. So we can move on to another guy who we can put him up here, if we can do that now, is yeah, there you go. So 2027 5-star cornerback John Meredith, who received a commitment or received a prediction.
Hold the horses there, Cameron.
Yeah, sorry for that. And he received a prediction to land with A&M. Again, this was Steve Wiltfong of Rivals On3. And, I take these with a grain of salt most of the times, really early in the process. But I wrote about this at Aggies Wire last week for the game. Meredith spoke to, forgetting who it was one of the guys at On3 in the summer, really about his relationship with A&M. And it kind of rings true with all these guys that it's not just football. It's again, all the outside stuff. It's how the coaching, like you've said, treats their family, how they feel so welcomed, how they feel like College Station can be their next home. Yeah, the football is very important. And for Meredith, I think the reason he's getting this prediction now is because of the way A&M has played, especially in the secondary as of late. Because your cornerback, you're looking at how this secondary is performing. That's safeties as well, how these guys are moving, the type of athletes that are back there, and the type of development that is taking place. So if you are considered a 5-star prospect out of the high school ranks, you're considered elite. You have all these elite traits, speed, length, the ability to play press and zone at a very high level, which, Mike Elko demands a lot of his team to do that. We will get into the hilarious comment he told Quentin Kessenich after the game about that, but later. But you look at he's probably looking at a guy like Des Ricks, right? Struggled last year during his first season with A&M, played over 650 snaps because of a lack of depth. Obviously, Tyree Chappelle being out last season, they had a lot of guys they had just put in there because they just didn't have enough bodies. And I think according to PFF last season, he was one of the lower graded players. This season, he's one of the higher graded. Did not have his best game against Florida, but cleaned things up in the second half, had a good finish. But if you're John Meredith, who again is considered and ranked as the number 1 corner in the class, the number 1 player in Texas, according to, I believe, On3 Rivals. This is an elite prospect who, if you can bag him and pair him with Brandon Arrington in the future, your secondary is pretty much solidified, and you can just go into the transfer portal, pick and choose some veterans to come in to solidify your depth. But in terms of guys who can come in, play now, and give you something even the freshman year and then develop into these type of NFL-like players, this is a great start. And I think that this is what's interesting to me is that, Mike Elko's been recruiting at a high level since he's gotten here, and it's only getting better and better. And I mean, there is no drop-off yet. I mean, we talked about this last week. He honestly has a chance to end up with the number 1 rated 2027 class if this momentum keeps up and these commitments keep flowing in.
Yeah, he really does. That 2027 class can just kind of, I don't want to say just be monumental for the program, but that's really how it is, especially if they can keep this momentum up going, not only 6-0, but hopefully 7-0 coming this next week against Arkansas. We'll preview this later on. But John Meredith is one of those elite cover corners when it comes to talent. So I believe it was Sam Spiegelman over at Rivals who had that conversation with him over the summer about Texas A&M, where they stand with him. And from what I've heard, it just sounds like the potential fit with Mike Elko, Jay Bateman, and Jordan Peterson especially too. Mm-hmm. The people on this staff, they've done really, really well with Meredith and his family, just showing him the love and respect that he deserves in terms of a defense like this. And I really just think that, especially now when it comes to all these other elite programs like Alabama, most recently Penn State, who just fired James Franklin, mm-hmm. I think that A&M can capitalize on visits like he had in the past couple weeks and just continue rolling with it. So, like you said, not much to put into right now besides the prediction. Like On3 and Rivals do, they do predictions because they are predictive, right? Mm-hmm. They're predictive. It's not a showing of what is 100% surely to come, but albeit the Aggies have done a great job with Meredith over the summer and into the fall.
Yeah, it's a feel, right? It's these guys are talking to these guys all the time. Like I'll tell you, in my primary job with Aggies Wire, we have discussions. These guys come, tell us stuff that they want to. It's a give and take type of deal, but there's a confidentiality thing in terms of when you're talking to a recruit. There's always these parameters, and you don't want, but it's their job to tell you if one team is on the right track. So for that, it's a good sign, right? But it just makes so much sense, right? I wasn't shocked when I saw that. I believe it was on Monday when that came out. I knew this was trending in a very good way for A&M. I think that we talked about it for the season even started. If this team is playing at a high level on both sides of the ball, that's only going to impress recruits more, and that's going to make them feel like, you know what, I like Texas A&M, I like College Station, I like the close-knit feel, I like the family environment, but at the same time, this football is elite now. So I plan on playing here for the next 3 to 4 years, and that it's just a completely different shift from what 20 years ago to now. Is that there was a time in A&M football, I'm going to be honest, my dad and a lot of older Aggies could tell you, it was just about beating Texas sometimes. So, I mean, the year was bad, recruiting was fine, but, you wanted to get at least 8 to 9 wins maybe, but you always wanted to be Texas at the end of the year. The difference is completely shifted. This is a program now that is vying for national praise. At the same time, their praise doesn't really matter. It's about getting to the next level, getting to the college football playoff, and winning a national championship, because we've seen even this season, there's a long season to go. We're going to get into that soon. But if the trend keeps going upward, this team will be competing for championships, not just appearances. And that's what these recruits are saying. So not a surprise. Very happy that, this type of trend is continuing, because it is always good to see that these wins mean, again, being 6-0 is great, but at the same time, it's helping recruiting every single week, and that's going to continue, even though A&M does not play a home game until November 15th. So we're going to get into that right now. Like I said at the beginning of the show, A&M beat Florida 34-17. It was an interesting game, to say the least. I came into that thinking that A&M was going to, kind of slow roll their way into it. Florida's defense is pretty competitive. I think overall they're 33rd in the nation. So pretty good unit, right? Good, especially good in the secondary. Have stars pretty much everywhere, have NFL talent.
And we said this going into last week, that their defense was going to be quite difficult to score on.
Yeah, and I think both of us predicted probably 20-plus points for A&M. We did think that Florida could get into that 20s, make it a close game. And it was for a while. I mean, we got to, and I'll get to this quickly and get you on your opinion on that. But this was a shootout, and it looked like that in the first quarter. I mean, DJ Lagway, Florida's quarterback, looked his best, to start this game. He was connecting with Vernell Brown and freshman wide receiver Dallas Wilson down the field. They were taking shots. Brown made a catch that a lot of people don't think it was a catch, but it was ruled a catch. But still, great attempt there, just great ball placement. Went up 7-0, and then Marcel Reed, right after that touchdown,
just uncorked a beautiful deep ball.
Oh God, just a beautiful 67-yard pass. Hit Mario Craver right in the hands. That got the Aggies in the red zone. I think 2 plays later, Marcel Reed ran it up the middle with his own legs, tied the game. Go back. Florida gets back down the field. DJ Lagway throws a very beautiful pass to Dallas Wilson in the left corner. And A&M, again, just the offense kept going. It was good pass after good pass, explosive run after explosive run. We're going to the mid to, I think it's the second quarter. A&M is up 21-14. That was after Le'Veon Moss's 22-yard run. Kind of skipping ahead because we can't kind of go to.
We're going back and forth. We're skipping bits, guys.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like, yes, there was a great 22-yard pass to Jeremy Morrow that took the lead at 14-7. They tied it at 14-14, and when A&M took the 21-14 lead, that's when things slowed down completely. I think both defenses really got control of the game. But that was when we're going to lead into now. Le'Veon Moss, Texas A&M senior running back, got injured. It looked like at the time, possible knee. It was reported by Quint Kessenich that it was an ankle. He went out of the late before the half, was seen walking, and then going into the second half, again, A&M was up 21-14 at that time. They said he was available, but did not enter again, which I think confused a lot of people, because sometimes in a game like that, there are emergency situations where if everybody gets hurt, you have to have a certain player available just if. And Moss is probably saying, well, no, I could come in if needed. But at the same time, when the swelling goes up and you finally get a diagnosis, we found out on Monday that he's going to be out, according to Mike Elko, several weeks he said a significant amount of time. Sorry about that. Which I believe is probably going to be 3 to 4 weeks in my.
I'm going to guess around 3. We could see him pop up as a questionable on the report for the Missouri game, or maybe even a game time decision for that. Which that's going to be a game where they're going to have to try and see if he's available.
Yeah, and I mean here's the thing. I would say this for Moss is that he's already shown an ability to heal faster than others. When he tore his ACL and MCL last year, I bet probably I think that was an early November game. obviously had surgery, made his way back, and was healthy enough during the spring, healed up more in the summer, and was obviously completely healthy going into the season. So I wouldn't put it past having an ankle problem. We've seen this with the Dallas Cowboys with their wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. He had a high ankle sprain that was, you saw the photo of it. That ankle was swelled up like no other. He's possibly going to play against the Washington Commanders this weekend. So some players just heal a little faster than others. It's based on the rehab. I think A&M's rehab team is fantastic. So, and there was a person on our Aggies Wire feed fan that was kind of asking about it. He was thinking that it was going to be longer. I discussed it with him, and I said, look, it just depends on the player. It really does. So for Moss, I agree with you. I think he probably is going to come up questionable before that Missouri matchup because remember, A&M does play LSU in Baton Rouge after Arkansas this weekend. So this does give him a ton of time. And so I'm going to get your opinion on this. Ruben Owens, the sophomore running back, who's going to take a majority of the snaps, had a career game against Mississippi State, 142 rushing yards, looked fantastic. I think he was averaging like 8 yards per carry at that time, just bursting through holes. He's going to take a majority of these snaps now. I'm repeating myself. But he spoke today about, his own ability, just talking about, he's gotten bigger this offseason. He does look much bigger, much stronger. He's still got that quickness and agility. It's just about, getting those snaps, getting confident in that role. But at the same time, he talked about this depth that they have, starting with, yes, Amari Daniels and E.J. Smith, who are the veteran backs who will see the field. But really, Jamarian Morrow, who, as I mentioned earlier, caught his first career touchdown off of a perfect route, just kind of standing in the corners. And Marcel Reed got threw a perfect pass there. Has a little Devon Achane type of build to him, a little bit of the same type of I wouldn't say, he's not really a bowling ball, because he's not that short, but it's just the way he kind of moves and he's not ready to be like a 3-down back yet. I think he had like 8 yards total running.
I think so, yeah.
That Florida front, that's always going to happen. He's a freshman, but at the same time, Owens talked about his ability as a route runner, the versatility he brings. So really, your opinion, you've watched as much as I have. Do you think A&M can, hold down, the running back room and provide at least enough explosiveness and consistency while Le'Veon Moss is out? Obviously, 3 consecutive road games. They're going to need this running game to step it up.
Well, let's look at it this way. I don't think that they would be playing those other running backs if they didn't think they already had them be able to provide those explosive plays anyway. Otherwise, they would just be playing 1, maybe even 2 running backs anyway, right? Yeah. So now that Ruben Owens does have to come in and be this bell cow of a running back for the most part, you can give those opportunities to a lot more of the other running backs. They have not shied away from using Jamarian Morrow in the run game and in the pass game with his first career touchdown over in that corner of the left end zone. So this is something where it's a little bit different than last year where you had Ruben Owens out for the season already and then Le'Veon Moss goes down for the rest of the season. And then you had to rely on Amari Daniels, who was banged up pretty much every single game, but still he gave it his all for the Aggies last year in those last couple of games. And then E.J. Smith looked pretty promising in the passing game as well. But now you have 4 running backs who you can just play consistently. And most importantly, they all provide around what you need for this offense because they've made Marcel Reed more of a pocket passer this year. So he can take off with his legs anytime they want, but it's really how are they able to complement each other. So if the running back room with all these, at least 3 or 4 running backs in that room can just provide that complementary style of offense and rushing attack that Le'Veon Moss did, I think they'll be sitting in a very, very promising position for the next couple of games with him out.
Yeah, so kind of continuing into the second half, I think that's where some Aggie fans have a little bit of a worry is that, but again, we have to remember who they're playing. Florida's defensive front is very NFL-like, in terms of size and strength. And, when you have that type of size, you're going to improve in the run game. You're going to really shut down what A&M is trying to do and make them more one-dimensional. That's really what happened. Ruben Owens had, I think it was about 52 yards, had a couple good runs, but he was only averaging about 3 yards per carry. They really had to dump that outside of that very long 50-yard drive that basically ended the game, which was incredible to watch, to be honest. Just beautiful football strategically. But A&M's defense was incredible in the second half.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
And this is the thing, and this is what I was really saving to talk about, because we can kind of skip. A&M had 2 field goals and a touchdown late in the game. Joe Ruben Owens, that's how he got to 34 points, but that was really built on this defense, giving them every possession to basically make mistakes. There were a couple. There was a Marcel Reed interception that was just kind of boneheaded. Didn't really know what he was doing there, but these things happen. But again, the defense saved them each time. This was one of the best showings I've seen. This defensive line was wreaking havoc throughout the second half. DJ Lagway, who had a pretty comfortable pocket during the first quarter, that's why he was able to have that impressive performance and throw for, I believe, is over 250 yards. But again, held them for 1 for 10 on third down. This third down defense is for real, people. This is one of the best I've seen in college football in years. And Cassius Howell, who I saw somebody say Ruben Bain is their Heisman candidate the other day. And I get it. Very talented, possibly a top 5 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Where's the love for Cassius Howell, who currently has 8 sacks on the year? I forget how many pressures he has, but it is a lot. And I think him and Deion Hayes had a combined 7 pressures against Florida. Obviously, Deion Hayes had that game-sealing sack fumble. And the options they have on the defensive line, especially at edge, just to come in fresh, make a play. DJ Lagway was running for his life most of the time. He had no time to throw. There was on the 1 third down they converted, the pass had to be perfect down the seam. And you can even tell the Texas A&M's cornerback rotation was just like, damn it. We allowed that one.
That's one of those things where it's just like, how did that go by? And
exactly,
because even though it did go by, man, was it good.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, well, no, I was like, bravo, good throw and catch, because honestly, it's just one of those things where, if your defense is playing at that level and you allow just 1 third down conversion against, again, a wide receiver core that's pretty damn talented. I will say that. Like, Dallas Wilson is going to be a star. He already showed that against Texas. Bernell Brown is very underlooked and underappreciated, I think, because I saw pregame, there was a Gagem 24/7 description that was getting a lot of blowback of how they were talking about him. But to be honest, those guys really did nothing in the second half because A&M's secondary would struggle in the first quarter, shut them down as well. Des Ricks had a much better second half, like I said earlier in the show. And it was just a complete team effort. And that is why A&M is being called probably the most complete team in the SEC, because of the way they can dominate on both sides of the ball. And we're going to finish, obviously, with that 12-play, 50-yard drive that all of us were watching this going, okay, what are you doing here? And then when the ball just kept going forward and they kept getting first downs and they kept trickling that clock down, draining minutes after minute after minute, that culminated in that Ruben Owens. It was a kind of I forget what the play was, but it was in the corner. It was in the left corner. But
I believe a little short toss over.
Yeah, it was a short toss. He muscled his way into the end zone. Basically, end of the game. I think they had like 2 minutes left. It was a little more than that. It
soaked up just under 8 minutes and 10 seconds of time.
Yeah. If you're doing that, so I'll say this: if you're doing that without Le'Veon Moss, I'm not too worried going forward, because if you have that strategy and you're going to do this against lesser defenses, not saying LSU has a very good defense, that's a different story. But again, Florida really committed to the defensive line. They really committed to shutting that run down, but they still got enough out of it. And it was beautiful to see. And that really does. It was really hard actually doing the recap of this game and really doing the takeaways outside of obviously the defense performing at a high level, the running back room stepping up, because it was such a complete game that there wasn't a lot that I was criticizing a ton, and praising, the obvious things was very easy, but it really took and the penalties was a big thing too. Only 3 committed penalties in the game after 22 combined in the last 2 wins. Progress has been made there, not one on the offensive line. Got to give love to the offensive line before we get our guests in here. Again, 1 hit, I think it was 1 pressure on Marshall Reed throughout the game, did not allow a sack, did not allow a QB hit. I mean, he had all day to throw, essentially. This was a front four that destroyed Arch Manning throughout the game, right, against Texas. So kudos to those guys. If this type of performance keeps going, this is why A&M is going to be favored in most of the games they're playing, and even on the road. Probably not Missouri, but they are, according to ESPN FPI, 51% favored to beat LSU, which I kind of thought was incredible. That's where we're at this season. But Kannon,
that's where we're at with predictive metrics now. So
yeah, exactly. I just thought that was kind of funny on Sunday night. I was like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, this is just where we're at season wise. This is kind of what the bettors and the analytical guys think. So, want to introduce our guest here.
Of course. So we are about to get into our Arkansas preview. So let's go ahead and bring our guest in. Yeah. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
What's going on? You guys doing good? Can y'all hear me all right?
Yeah, we're
perfect.
Awesome. Good deal. Yeah, glad to be on. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So for those of you who do not know Kyle, he is one of the main contributors and writers over at HawgBeat.com over at On3 and Rivals. So Kyle, what you got for us tonight? I mean, we've got this upcoming game against or in Fayetteville for the first time since 2013. How are we feeling so far?
You feel a little bit better. I think I probably speak for a lot of the fan base, or certainly a lot of my subscribers, when you say you felt better with the way the Razorbacks produced last week. But at the same time, to me, it kind of had Ole Miss vibes in some ways. And what I mean by that is you got, so I know that you didn't fumble it away at the end of the game or anything like that, but it was just being a 3-point game. It just was like, oh man, another close one. That was one of the things with Pittman that people talked about, was the 7-19 record in one-score games. So I think, like, going into this game, I certainly think A&M's going to win. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there. But I don't think it's going to be like a Notre Dame. I could see Texas A&M winning by multiple scores, certainly, but I don't think it's going to be one of those types where I feel like the defense especially laid down against Notre Dame, especially in the second half, just completely went off the rails. So you're going to get a much better effort. But the thing with this team, guys, is they did especially offensively, they did a good job in the portal. They got a good piece in Julian Neal in the defensive backfield. Quincy Rhodes has done great on the defensive line, but defensively, it's just a lot of basic things. You go back and you listen to the press conferences from Pittman and the 5 that he had this year, it just was missed assignments, missed tackles, lack of effort, just what I've called JV type stuff, which was just extremely concerning. And we kind of got those ideas back in fall camp. But I think Petrino, more than anything, has just brought a little bit more of an edge and a toughness. And I think those defensive coaches one of them that he brought in and the rest that he moved around, I think that they've done that on that side of the ball.
Yeah. And from what you said before, this defense kind of did lay down against Notre Dame, but I think what supports your theory is that the line of this game is only A&M 7.5 for this game. So I think that Vegas also knows, or at least is projecting, that this is also a game where we've seen Arkansas go against a lot of defenses and still give them trouble. I mean, Taylon Green is playing at a very, very high level for a quarterback. And that's also kudos to Petrino, who we know is a great play caller in an offensive scheme that he runs. So I think you hit it nail on the head, where this Arkansas offense can definitely give A&M a lot of trouble, especially with the schemes that Petrino runs. But I know that Arkansas fans are not trying to watch another game where this defense kind of lays down and just lets another team score all over them. But it's a little bit of a tough spot for the rest of the season, I know.
Yeah, it is for sure. And that, I think probably with but you got 3 home games after being in 3 of your last 4 games you played on the road. And then of course you played in Little Rock against Arkansas State, which that's technically that's away from Fayetteville. So in my mind, it's a road game. But I think, and I was listening while I was in the green room there, Cameron, you said it, this is a complete team. And really just I admittedly haven't watched a full, I watched almost all of the Notre Dame game just because that was 2 Arkansas opponents. But I've only seen this team other than film. I've seen a quarter here, a quarter there, covering, of course, the Razorback games and stuff. But I think the biggest thing was the way the defense. What was, I think, the first drive that Florida had coming out of halftime, got a turnover. So the offense kind of took care of business in the first half. Marcel had probably the best start of his career in the first half, I'd go as far to say. Up there.
Probably, yeah.
So, when you put all that together, and that's one thing that we actually had a couple of the players that we talked to in a press conference earlier, and that's one thing they talked about, just that front seven, just how great it is. And this Arkansas offensive line has really been a bright spot that probably hasn't been talked to. Eric Mateos, the offensive line coach, has done a really good job. That's a unit that has been a bright spot. But that it's going to be their biggest test, I think, definitely so far of the year.
Yeah, and we talked about a little bit pre-show. You look at the defense, you look at the rankings. Obviously, Arkansas is, I think it's 100. They're 120th in total defense, allowing over 435 per game. A&M, I believe, Ken, you can correct me on this. It's over 400
yes
games right now. Yeah, so those two things don't really coincide. It's not a good outcome usually. But at the same time, A&M has played 3 consecutive home games. Obviously, they have a huge advantage in Kyle Field. That's one of the more underrated talking points is that, for those who have not been to Kyle Field during a night game, they really don't understand the impact and what it does for especially the defense. And so it is going to be interesting, especially knowing the storyline surrounding Bobby Petrino, coached at A&M as the OC and quarterback coach during 2023, kind of left on a messy note. Go back to the Jimbo Fisher era. There were a lot of stories coming out. I remember that was my second full year at Aggies Wire with USA Today. And I remember hearing a podcast or something where Petrino basically said, I came in thinking I was going to be able to run my offense, but Jimbo basically gave me his offense and said, just call the plays that you can call these plays, but they better be off of my play sheet. And right. That's got to piss you off if you're Petrino, who, again, we look back at the great Arkansas days, consecutive back-to-back double-digit win seasons, the 11-2 year before he departed. There's I don't think there's full animosity with A&M. He's only there for one season. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher's not there anymore. I think he respects Mike Elko, what he's built. But at the same time, it's going to be the third down defense. A&M's number one third down defense. As I think they've allowed 2 conversions. I think 3 conversions total. I forget what the fourth down is. And Arkansas, I think they're number 3 in third down conversions. So getting that Arkansas offense off the field is going to be huge because I'm going to be honest. I wrote about it today, kind of comparing the statistics. It looks dominant for A&M, right? But my biggest worry, and we saw that against Florida, is that DJ Lagway took some shots at the corners. And yes, they had a very good second half. They shut things down. Mike Elko at the half, we didn't mention that, told Quinn Quiston, he said, well, you're playing more zone, right? And he said, no, we're playing man. We're just playing better. And he's like, well, no, let's start playing zone. He's like, no, we're just playing better. And I was like, well, no, that's what they're going to do throughout this game because they know that Omega Blake is a problem. I remember him coming on the transfer portal. I really wanted him for A&M. He's been fantastic this season. Him and Green have a great connection there. But I do think that, when you do take a lot of shots at A&M starting corners, whether it's Des Ricks or Willie has struggled in some of these early games. He's picked it up late. This could end up being a shootout if they just gain momentum and both defense kind of say, you know what, we have to rely on our offenses because we're just not doing very well. I do think that A&M's pass rush, talked about the defensive line, has shown that the depth is real. We didn't really know that before the season started. There were a lot of new faces, guys like Dayon Hayes, who was, I think he was the highest rated player after the game, had the game-stealing sack fumble, has really stepped up as just a pure pass rusher, just a situational guy. Obviously, Cassius Howell is just a stud. And this interior has really stepped it up as well. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher over the last 3 games. So that's where I'm getting is that Arkansas has 2 very good running backs. They've really excelled in the run game. These are 2 bruisers that can be relied on. And I think for A&M, going against 3 offenses that have had some success running the ball. I don't know about Auburn really, but Mississippi State had a lot. They did very well in the first half. A&M shut them down in the second. That's really been the trend of Mike Elko's second half adjustments. And Florida's had an above average running game, but this is the first elite running game they're facing. So I think that's going to be a big thing to watch is that if they can get some big explosive runs early and wear down that defensive line, that could be trouble, and that could lead to more offensive success. And also, obviously, I think Arkansas is one of the more efficient offensive teams in the country, and it's even more so with Bobby Petrino's play calling.
No doubt. And they're going to have to continue to run the ball like that to have any kind of success against A&M, especially you think about what they did against that's one of the first things that Bobby Petrino talked about when he and Hunter Yurachek, the AD, of course, had that press conference after they had dismissed Sam Pittman the day after. And he talked about how the first thing we need to stop the run, but we also need to run the football. I know that a lot of people, when you think of, especially Bobby Petrino, when he was here with the Greg Childs, the Joe Adams, the Jerry Wrights back in those days, but he's always been about really kind of starting it with the run too. You think about Nile Davis that they had back in those days with him, Dennis Johnson, both at running back and kick returner. So Bobby's always been a guy that does like to set up the run as well. And that's exactly what you saw them do. It's just, guys, you got to take care of the ball. You can't have 2 second, especially against A&M. You can't have 2 second half turnovers like you had last week. Braylon Russell he did take a really big shot, but he's still got to hold on to the ball a little bit better. And some of Taylon's, I think he's got 6 interceptions on there or something like that, but about half of those have been right to the defender. And so that's the big Taylor. It's one of those things that you wouldn't be, like I say, you wouldn't be at this point. I mean, they're 2-4, but the offense wouldn't have the success and the numbers that it does have, obviously, without him, what he's able to do and what he's been able to pick up in year 2 under Petrino. And you're right. Omega Blake we knew that we had a feeling in fall camp that he was going to be the dude, because Andrew Armstrong was the dude last year. And then it was just kind of everybody else. This year, Raylan Sharp, he really stepped up in the last game a lot. Of course, Jaylen Brown had a really nasty leg break against Notre Dame. But you're seeing some guy, Rohan Jones, tight end that they brought in from Montana State. He's really stepped up and done some good things. So, but yeah, back to your original point, it's got to start with Mike Washington, Braylon Russell, with what they're able to do. And if they can't establish some sort of run game, then especially those third down conversions are going to be almost impossible. But just moving the football, getting a rhythm on offense is going to be tough.
Yeah,
and Ken, I'll get you in here a second. I do think I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I think Kannon is as well. And that the problem with, their abysmal defense, and I remember I was kind of thinking about it, you got to win on first down, right? You got to stop them on first down. You got to back them up and then make it a 3rd and long each time. I think that's the same goal for A&M's defense, is that you can't allow Taylon Green to, if he doesn't have anything open, make a play with his legs. And he's so hard to tackle because he's like built like a gazelle. And I mean, A&M's defensive line has had issues in the past. I think last year's problem was they didn't have as much speed in there. Nick Scorton wasn't the fastest defensive end. They did have Shamar Stewart, but they did have some issues, even though, last year, I believe Scorton had the game-winning sack fumble on Green. But he's a very hard player to defend. I think that's where a lot of Aggie fans are a little worried there. They do believe that this could be the trip-up game, even though we're doing our due diligence saying, well, no, the defense is pretty bad, and it's way worse than what they played the last 3 games. So you should have a very good offensive outing, but you're 100% right. This is about establishing your strengths early. So if Arkansas can do that, I do see this potentially being a high scoring 30+ point type of game. I do believe that A&M is going to have those second half adjustments that is really going to make Arkansas one dimensional. But at the same time, Petrino is just that good, in my opinion, as a play caller. I've been praising that guy every year. I don't care what's happened with him. I mean, it's kind of funny when we talk about Petrino. He hasn't changed. He's still so elite at what he does well, and that's really going to benefit this team, because when you're 2-4, you're 0-2 in SEC play, you want to beat A&M, right? They've been beating you every single year outside of 1 year during I think it was 2020.
21, yeah.
I remember that game. It was the Zach Calzada throwing at the helmet game. And look, that was a good Arkansas team that kind of faltered at the end of the season, but they hate this team, right? It's not, when Arkansas didn't become one of the permanent rivals, I was actually shocked, to be honest with you.
I was too. Because it's a trophy game and all this.
It's a trophy game.
Yeah, and I was shocked by that. I mean, Missouri, even Mike Elko didn't understand that one. So,
So do you guys know, this is actually a question that it was asked on my message board. Are they still playing for the trophy? Is it still the Southwest Classic? Have you guys heard anything about that?
I don't think it's a Southwest Classic anymore because of the venue change.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I think it's really just for pride now. I think this game is going to, it's still going to be important. But at the same time, I think when you leave Jerry World and it doesn't have that mystique anymore, it just kind of goes back.
Well, and that's kind of the way that I look at it, because, and you guys, I mean, A&M's been in the league for over a decade now, and it's like this in other conferences now too, especially since the Big Ten. You've got West Coast teams playing in it now, but when you play on the road, you just never know. And I mean, Kirby Smart, I know that they've won a lot of one-score games on the road over teams that they were far superior, and he just comes to mind because that's what he's talked about. Is that'll be the first question that he gets? What happened tonight? Well, we're playing on the road in the SEC. And now, what kind of home environment is Arkansas going to have? That remains to be seen. Like, I mentioned a second ago against Notre Dame, there wasn't much in the first half to be excited about. You had people leaving, just wasn't much crowd atmosphere for that one. So if the guys come out and they give something for people to be proud of, and everyone's loud, I mean, you never know what could happen on the road. Again, I don't feel like Arkansas is going to win, but I do think that it is going to be at least a little bit better effort, to where by the second half, we're not, okay, man, we got to get this thing done. Like, it's over and done with. But Mike Elko, guys, he's done a great job there. Kevin Sumlin did some good things there too. I know that he started a lot of those quick 5-6-0 starts, and Jimbo, I know that he kind of underachieved and everything, but Elko, it really seems to me that, I mean, that's the guy that can really complete a season for you. I mean, I really feel that way about him. I think, and complete a season, I mean, as far as you start strong, could possibly do, then, we're about to find that out. I mean, they've started as hot as just about anybody in the country right now. And so we'll see if Arkansas can get them on their toes, but I don't really expect that very much.
I think in this game, if I'm looking at it holistically, you take a step back, and while a running back may, like for Arkansas, their main running back, he's only a couple yards over their leading rusher for Arkansas entirely. I mean, just trailing behind him is Taylor Green. I think that when Aggie fans saw last year what Taylor Green was able to do on that first drive, especially connecting with Isaac Tesla for that long touchdown, in a game like this, I think, because I've watched a lot of the Arkansas games so far, I think I've seen him take these progressive steps as a passer, but also as a decision maker, where that was kind of the problem last year, where he would make these decisions where it seemed like the last resort option was to throw it up for the receiver. This is one of those times where I'm wondering if under Petrino's guidance, for at least just being the head coach for now, until further notice, that is he able to just tuck and run when the moment comes? Is he able to make that middle of the field over the middle dagger pass that they're kind of wanting? Like, if they want to move the chains and be this great third down offense that they've already been so far against this really, really good Texas A&M third down defense, I think those are the plays that really need to happen and can keep this game close. And sorry for cutting you off, but I think that you've seen a couple of flashes from other receivers in this game besides Omega Blake. I mean, you have, I think Jones has flashed in certain ways. I think Texas A&M transfer Jaden Platt, you've seen a couple of receptions over the past couple of weeks as well. Kind of flash for Arkansas too, which you have to look out for. But really, outside of Omega Blake, I really think that if they're able to contain Taylor Green in the pocket and kind of collapse it, that's where one of these games where it could go up to a blowout, like you said.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think talking about Taylor's progression, I think last year, and this is my words, he's never said anything close to this. I don't know that he fully trusted his offensive line, because there were some, especially on the right side, there was some struggles. I mean, he was under pressure a lot of different times. Now, sometimes the pressure was his fault. There were times that you could really pull out the film, be like, okay, he held the ball too long. He probably shouldn't have tucked it right here. Probably should have gone through his progressions. But that's back to what I was saying too. A lot of it last year, I mean, Andrew Armstrong was such a great receiver, but it really just seems like it was kind of, that was the guy that if it wasn't open, he was just going to tuck it and run a lot of different times. And they didn't really use the tight ends as much last year. Of course, Luke Haas he's now at Ole Miss, and he was kind of in and out of the lineup with was dealing with a lingering back injury. So I do think that having a better offensive line certainly has helped. He's gotten a little bit better protection. The protection has, in my opinion, improved quite a bit. So I think that's the first thing. But yeah, he has just gone. on and continued to go through his progressions a little bit better. And then the run is kind of like, well, if I can get the first down, if there's an opening, then it's really not necessarily the last option, but it's not just the immediate thing that he goes to if his first option isn't open.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like I said, Kannon made a perfect point there. Green, I would kind of call him a momentum type of quarterback that I've watched a handful. I actually did not get to see Tennessee and Arkansas last week because A&M's game was starting. I think it was a 6:30 kickoff. But yeah, I mean, again, this team can score, and when he's motivated, and I mean that's the biggest thing, right? Is this team still motivated to get the job done under Petrino? It looks like they are. They put up a fight against Tennessee. They could have easily just rolled over on the road against a quote unquote superior team and say, you know what, this season's pretty much over. Who really cares? Who's the new coach going to be? But I don't think a Petrino-led team is ever going to do that. But at the same time, yeah, I watched him, that terrible interception against Memphis on the road, which really led to Pittman's downfall. And it is that type of decision-making, which is very confusing. But I will say Marcel Reed had the same type of boneheaded type of interception against Florida where he threw, I think it was to Casey Concepcion, who was about 5'11", throwing in double coverage, two corners that were about 6'1". And you just kind of think to yourself, what's the point of doing that, right? And that's really Green's career, is that he looks like an NFL. I mean, I think during that Memphis game, I was hearing the broadcasters talk about his NFL future and how he's a potential
at that time, he was a Heisman candidate. I mean, outside looking in, but he was on a Heisman podcast. I think that week leading up to that game, he was getting talks about it. Of course, it was super early in the season, but yeah, I mean, he was up there getting talked about Heisman numbers or Heisman trophy and everything. So
so if you have that type of skill set and you have that build, you have all those attributes that could make you a future NFL quarterback. I mean, we see guys like Jackson Dart thriving right now in the NFL. I didn't project him to do anything, but at the same time, if you have just a handful of those traits and you can be developed, that's someone like Taylor Green, who I could easily see him at the next level becoming a very good backup or potentially a starter, just because he has the arm talent, he has the vision. Sometimes there's just those things lacking where this team has not gotten over the hump because, yes, the defense is not good, but that decision-making has killed them in a couple games this season. And yes, it's going to be hard to outscore teams. I didn't peg Arkansas to be a contender this year just because of that defense. But at the same time, it's going to have easily been an 8-win team, in my opinion, if Taylor Green was playing at a Heisman level. We saw that last year with A&M with Marcel Reed when Le'Veon Moss went down. Pretty much everybody has said, like, this kid's got to play at an elite level. Well, he really didn't. He had his moments, but he couldn't get it done because he didn't have an Omega Blake. He didn't have those type of elite receivers last year. He has those now. But so the pressure still is on Marcel Reed this season to get it done. But I think for Green, it's just going to be on him to continue his playing career, get to the next level. And even if you're 2-4, it's not selfishness. It's not, I got to do this for myself. All these guys want to win, and they want to beat specific opponents like A&M, the number 4 ranked team at home, because after, like you said, getting embarrassed on your own home field against Notre Dame, who I get was really pissed off about losing A&M the way they did. But they did take some of that out on Arkansas. But at the same time, that's not who Arkansas is striving to be. You don't want to be a doormat in the SEC like Vanderbilt was, because right now Vanderbilt is a rising program, which is so weird to say that. But they're a rising program. So if you're Arkansas, this is all evaluation for Petrino's future, because he still has a chance to become the permanent head coach. I mean, there's going to be a lot of names. James Franklin now is in the mix, I guess. I don't really understand that fit. But again, all these games going forward is for all these guys to basically prove we're not losers. We don't have that loser type of mentality, and we're trying to get better every week, and we're going to be competitive every week. So I'll say this. I think it is going to be a much better game. I personally think A&M will win, but I think it's going to be much closer and much higher scoring than people expect. But that's just me.
I think you nailed it on some good points there, because that's one thing. Talking about the teams continuing to stay bought in, notice, guys, there has not been one player up to this point. So we're 2 weeks in now there's not been one player up to this point that has hit the transfer portal, second, third, fourth string, anything like that. And a big reason for that, I feel like, is because that's one of the things that Petrino told them. He said, look, you might not like this current situation. I understand that some of you, and it's tough, especially for the defensive guys. You lose your coordinator, you lose 2 position coaches. You lose the co-defensive coordinator plus the Marcus Woodson, then Travis Williams, the DC, and then also the linebackers coach, or not the defensive line coach, Deke Adams. So defensive guys especially, you're like, man, it's kind of an empty room now. But that's one of the things that Petrino talked about, was making yourself marketable. In today's society, today's landscape, if you just sit and mope and cry about it, then you're hurting nobody but yourself, because whether you're going to be at Arkansas next year or whatever the case may be, whether you're going to the NFL, another school, you have to be marketable and you have to be wanted by other programs. So I think that's what he's instilled. And that's something that probably I would imagine he's definitely has that mindset. Yes, he's wanting to get this team to turn it around, get some wins. But as you said, he is auditioning. He said in his press conference on Monday, I'm not auditioning for anything. I'm just trying to get these guys, ready for the season and all those different things. Yeah. To me, 2 things can be true. I do believe that he is trying to help these players, but he's also vouching for that job as well. I mean, he's made it very clear that he's going to be, and he said it, Hunter Yurachek has said that he wants to be in line for this job. So he's just done a really good job of getting the players and the staff to buy into, regardless of what your position is on this team, you have to make yourself marketable regardless of where your future is going to be.
Yeah, the Bobby Petrino vengeance tour. So.
Yeah. I find it interesting when I think it's been talked about before, but I think it'll be vital to kind of get your side of where you think this sits. I think it's a little funny when the Arkansas brass fired Pittman when they did, and then Pittman was elevated. Is this a spot where either one or 2 things could have happened, where Arkansas fired Pittman just to rip the Band-Aid off when they did, or could it be one of those things where they fired Pittman, and now that Petrino is in this spot where they have a big stretch of games coming up, where it's you bring in Auburn, you bring in A&M, you go to Mississippi State, LSU, Texas, and then Missouri. That's a tough stretch of games, especially for a team so far that has had the kind of back and forth that they've already had so far. Do you think that it is a coincidence when they fired Pittman when they did?
So, of course, I can only speak for my opinion, but here's what I think happened. I think that he was probably going to be out regardless. I mean, even if they won 8+ game, whatever, I think he was probably going to be out after this year. That's just my personal opinion. And then I feel like and then Yurachek had talked about how he said that in the press conference, right after the day after Pittman was fired, that he felt like that. I can't remember if he said he felt like he lost the team, but he did talk about the lack of effort and things like that. So I think it was kind of a mix of the team clearly let go of the rope in that, especially in that second half. And I think it was really just more of anything a mutual agreement. Hunter Yurachek went to Pittman's house. They talked about some things. He went down on his buyout a little bit. They saved about $1.5 million by knocking the buyout down just a little. I think it was down from 75 to 62%, something like that. So to answer your question, I think it was kind of at the time that it happened, it was a little bit of a mutual thing. I think that probably Hunter Yurachek or the board or somebody within that group was like, look, it's clearly things are going south really quickly. We've got to make some sort of change. It's been reported and pretty much confirmed that regardless if Pittman would have stayed on or not, those defensive guys would have been let go. Somebody was going to get let go during the bye week before they went to Tennessee. But I think ultimately it was just a mutual decision. And guys, I'll say this, Sam Pittman, you got to win. Ultimately, that's the name of the game. There are a lot of things that I'm just like, what in the world was he thinking, whether it was in a press conference, whether it was on the field, but I deeply appreciate it. So now I look at the team from a neutral standpoint. I was born and raised in Arkansas, diehard Razorback fan growing up. Now I look at him from a completely neutral standpoint. I think the world of Sam Pittman. I appreciate him coming in here because at the time that he did, it's not a great job right now, but it was a laughing stock. I mean, a true laughing stock when he took it over. And he took it when nobody else did. He took it with a lot of passion. He gave it all he had. And ultimately, it just didn't work out. So you hate to see it like that, but ultimately it was the right decision, I think, to just stop the bleeding, as you had said, Kannon.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason, to say the least, because the James Franklin firing just took me by surprise in a lot of ways based on the buyout, based on nobody's learning from Texas A&M yet. Just
there's going to be a lot of job openings.
There's going to be a lot. Florida's still.
Yeah, but fired head coach, whether college, that's the greatest job in the world.
Yeah,
just laying in the money. So
I wonder what the combined buyout money by the end of the season for all coaches is going to be.
Well, especially if they let Napier, because his is what, 21 million.
I think so. His is very manageable considering.
Yeah, but he'll be about to get fired. They're gonna give him they'll have the pink slip ready before a game, and then he'll beat a top 10 opponent or something. I know that it didn't work out against you guys, but when his back is really against the wall, he's going to win. That he becomes Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, whatever you want to call him.
Hey,
so
Kyle, they play Mississippi State this next week, so I don't know if that's back against the wall, but it could very well be.
If they lose it, because Mississippi State started really, and they are certainly, Jeff Levy's done a great job there. Definitely well. Their kicker, Kyle Ferry, I covered him. He's from Arkansas. I covered him in the high school ranks, and when Jeff was hired, he was very high on him. And I'm like, we'll see what happens. But they've done a really, really good job. They faltered a little bit, kind of come down to earth. But I could see him losing that game. Then everybody is up in arms again, and then he wins. That's just what he does. He just, when his back is up against the wall the most, that's when he produces.
Hugh Freeze, another guy. I don't see it lasting. I watched, caught the end when I was getting home. I caught the end of that, and I just you see the score, you see the stat, you see how they were doing in the first half. I have no idea what's going on there. I don't understand how that man can run an offense after years of success with Ole Miss and then turning Liberty around. And he's got a quarterback, how a former 5-star quarterback is playing this way, having those two wide receivers. Probably heard the entire offseason. I mean, the entire offseason, how good they were, how elite that passing game is going to be. I'm pretty sure A&M, Cam Coleman had, 18 yards?
Something like that. It was
that's what concerns me is I feel like Arkansas, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, I feel like Arkansas could get this win and everybody's like, okay, maybe they're going to make a turnaround. And then a struggling Auburn team comes in, which Arkansas hasn't beat at home since 2015. That was like a 3 or 4 overtime game. And I could see something like that. Like Arkansas gets a big win and then Auburn comes in and like they get a big win over A&M. Auburn comes in and just blows them out the next week. Like I could totally see that happening because talking about that 21 season, Arkansas started 4-0, and then they lost to Georgia, I believe, who was number 2 or 3, whatever, maybe 1 in the country. And then the next week, Auburn comes in and just they beat them by 2 or 3 touchdowns at home. So it's the SEC, man. You never know.
Trust me. I mean, my first year, everybody makes fun of me for that, was the 2022 season for A&M. I mean, what a debacle that was. But it ended with, and you're right. That's the SEC ending with a blowout win over LSU. I mean, and then LSU, I think they got booted from the college football playoff at that time. So, I mean, because of that loss. So anything can happen. This can be so random how this ends. And I think we're going to get to our predictions here now. And that's where I stand. Like I said, this game, it's like Nick Saban's fear of Auburn. I think he said the other day, like on College Game Day, said, I think that's the only place I have a losing record. The SEC is weird, man. It doesn't matter how good or bad the other team is. Things just happen. A&M, this is a 2:30 kickoff, which I don't know if it benefits them. I mean, if it was an 11 a.m. kickoff, I think it'd be worse for them because those slow starts, we saw Ole Miss struggling against Washington State, who I think that program's in shambles right now and only winning by 3 points. So those games do happen. But I don't know. I think after this week, and I even think with the Le'Veon Moss news, I do think that's going to affect their offense a little bit. But I think they're pretty confident with the depth they have at running back. I think that Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver are such difference makers. And especially against Arkansas's cornerback rotation, which just is not very strong.
Right.
I think they're going to have a ton of explosive plays. I can see A&M scoring 40 points in this game if their game script is working. They establish the run early, and Marcel Reed is comfortable in the pocket. And the most importantly, that A&M's offensive line continues to block him at an elite level in pass pro because he didn't even get hit on him last week. He which was kind of funny because he still made some questionable throws. Some of them were drops, so he was pretty accurate on the day. But I just think that this team knows how urgent they need to be over the next 3 weeks, because they were 7-1 last year. I think you obviously know that. Finished 1-4 after losing Le'Veon Moss. The fan base lost interest. I remember, because my living depends on this. During January, it was almost like football season didn't happen. It was very odd. And Mike Elko went to work in this offseason, building this roster, bringing back 70% of this offense, getting guys to the transfer portal. And he knows how important this 3-game stretch is, starting with Arkansas, because trust me, they're having conversations in the coach's room. They're having conversations in players-only meetings, probably even saying, guys, we need to go and win this game, because if we fall on our ass, it's not just going to be Texas fans and everybody making fun of us. It could potentially ruin our season. And, playing LSU that next week, you got to be prepared for these next 3 games. So I'm going to keep it in the 30s. I think A&M probably wins about 35-24. I think Arkansas is going to have a pretty decent day. I think on the road, this team did struggle against Notre Dame. Now, that was an early game. It was a week 3 game. So, but I do think that Taylor Green is going to have a pretty efficient outing. And I think he'll make some mistakes. And I think the reason why they'll lose this game is some turnovers, especially fumbles. But yeah, I think it's going to be close, a little too close for comfort, but I think A&M's going to get out with a double-digit win.
Yep. So am I going now?
I guess so.
Yes.
We'll make it a little bit of a
Okay.
sandwich. We'll end the show with a little bit of a prediction sandwich, so you can go ahead.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to, I think Arkansas, I was going to say, I do think Arkansas scores 24. I'm going to go 42-24. I think it's going to be close, maybe about like a 7 to 10 point game. And then A&M will probably get a touchdown late, whether that's off of a turnover, but I do think that they're going to probably put it away late. But I do think Arkansas is going to compete a lot better than the last time we saw them at home. So I'm going to go 42-24 Aggies.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going as well. I think that there will be a touchdown scored late, whether it is by both Arkansas and A&M. I think that fourth quarter will probably, you can kind of see the matchup going along down the line, where you kind of see the game script. You see touchdowns by quarter. It's just going to be score. And then that fourth quarter, you're just going to see a 7-7 because 2 late touchdowns were scored. So I think A&M wins here. I do think they can get to 40. So I think I'm going to go 42 to 26. I think Arkansas can definitely get those points on the board. I could definitely see them even scoring a little bit more than that, but I think that's where they get.
Yeah, I think Petrino's going to pull out all the shots. I think that this is just a game that, he is, like you said, he's auditioning, no matter if he says he is or not. It's just one of those things where, yeah, I do think A&M's going to win. I think they're going to be able to score. But if it does get tight late, and it has to do with A&M's mistakes, because they have made some dumb mistakes when they are rolling in games this season, where, yes, they've come back with either elite defense or giving the ball back and having sustained drives like they did against Florida. But at the same time, this is on the road. It is going to be interesting. You are right about that, to see how many Arkansas fans show up if they really come out for this game. It is a 2:30 kickoff. It's on a night game, which they were probably tempted to make it a night game, to be honest. But I think because of the record, probably didn't want to do that. But yeah, I think the crowd's going to be a big part of it. A&M travels well. I do think a lot of them are going to come to that game. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just I'm still unsure. I mean, I'll stick with my prediction, but it's just one of those weird matchups, kind of like the Missouri game, which when we get to that one, Kannon, it's gonna be tough.
I will be there. So
yeah, I might be there. I'm not sure yet, but
yeah. You better be there.
Hopefully, we'll see.
But Kyle, we thank you so much for coming on tonight. Where can the lovely people who are watching find you?
Yeah, so HawgBeat.com, you see it down there rolling across the screen, HawgBeat. Of course, we've got football coverage throughout the season, and we're really excited about John Calipari year 2. Feel like we got a really good basketball team coming in. Actually, today he was asked by a Texas A&M beat writer about buckyball today, about building a run, because last year he came in, he had that famous quote. I met with the team. There is no team. So he actually got a question at SEC, because we're recording on a Tuesday night here, SEC Media Days earlier today. That was like the second question he got asked. So a little bit of A&M Hogs hoops tie-in right there.
Yeah, Calipari respects A&M. I think he really respects what Bucky McMillan's trying to build there, because he knows it. He knows what he had to deal with, and they ended up having a pretty good run. And yeah, we're hoping the same. We're going to really get into basketball. It's an exciting time,
because hey, we remember Arkansas started 0-5 in conference play. There's a lot of, and again, injuries were really first year, and injuries were really playing a part, and it was kind of a learning deal. But then he had that famous quote that said that they put us in a coffin, they shut the lid, they just forgot to hammer the nails. And so,
I love Carter Knox. I think Carter Knox is an absolute breakout candidate for the SEC this year. I'm going to enjoy watching them play. I love basketball. It's my first love. So
yeah. Good thing is A&M's getting zero hype.
That could be a good thing, though. That could be a good thing. But we
think they're going to be a pretty good team. I saw that yesterday. I was like, not even a vote. That's interesting.
Yeah. I saw Arkansas had a scrimmage just down in Hot Springs, about an hour south of Little Rock. I went down there on Sunday, and man, it's how you would think they'd look in October. A lot of sloppiness, but crazy athleticism. So we're excited.
He's going to put out a good team this year. But I think the SEC, especially, I think with McMillan, it's just going to be fun to watch, because McMillan is the polar opposite of Buzz Williams, and I think we're all kind of done with the Buzz Williams era of just pure defense and having to out-rebound everybody to we're going to score some points. We don't know what the defense is going to look like yet, but we're going to score a lot of points. So it's going to be fun.
It'll be fun, yeah.
It will be, yeah. So I appreciate it, Kyle. We'll, you know what? If there's a coaching change or anything like that, we would glad you have you on to discuss it. I think it's always fun to get other SEC guys in here to talk about it, because we cover A&M here, but just talking SEC ball and all the changes is always fun too. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, other than hanging out with my daughter, this is pretty much my life. So pretty much anytime, man. I'm always happy to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. Y'all take care.
I'll see you, man. Yep. All right. That was great.
What a lovely preview with Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, when you get an expert on there to discuss the team, it's, beat writer perspective, as I know, it's a little different. I mean, when you're on the ground, boots on the ground, you get those little tidbits some of us, don't get all the time. And yeah, it's great to hear that. It's interesting to hear the buy-in, right? The buy-in to the program, even with Sam Pittman gone, and because we did see today 2 Texas players enter the portal. So you just don't know in this era, right? That even though Texas season is not even near over, I mean, they could rebound easily, but guys make choices. And so it is interesting that Arkansas, even with all the coaching changes and everything, still, trying to win a game, trying to finish the season out strong. So yeah, we're going to get to the final stage for night. So A&M is I believe, I'm not sure what Underdog has, but
I think it's 7.5.
7.5 that's pretty consistent. I don't think it's going to change too much during the week unless Wednesday's injury report says something different. I don't, for Arkansas, but I don't really suspect that to be the case. But either way, I think that, like I said, I think all our predictions were pretty spot on with how this could be a close game, or this could be a blowout for A&M if they, don't make a lot of mistakes, make it a clean game from a flag perspective. This could easily be a dominant A&M road win, but at the same time, things can get weird on the road, and it is an early enough kickoff where you're kind of like 7.5 feels safe.
Yeah, definitely 7.5 feels safe, and I think going back to that buy-in you were talking about with some of these players, whether it be A&M or Arkansas, is very, very important in this game. Like, it could be a blowout unless we see a lot of buy-in from the players. So speaking of buy-in, I will say that Underdog right now, our lovely sponsor of the show, is offering, if you just play $5, you actually just get $50 deposited into your account in bonus cash. So if you guys are able to go to Underdog Fantasy and use the code VOCFB Aggies, that is VOCFB AGGIES, and just deposit $5 or play $5, you actually get $50 right then and there to use. So if you want to tail us and our predictions of A&M covering this week, you can go ahead and do that. So yeah, if you are looking for your everyday play sponsor or play app, try out Underdog.
Yep, as always, participants must be 21 years or older, and if you have a gambling problem, you can always call 1-800-GAMBLER. So yeah, it's sorry about that. Yeah, so I think, like I said, this is a very important game for A&M. I always circled this on the calendar, even going in. I'm still good. Prediction wise, I said that A&M was going to be undefeated before.
You did.
I'm still there. I'm still there. We'll see, but it's just I look back at last year's game. This is really the last point I'm going to make tonight, and that was a less talented A&M team. They were talented in other areas, but overall, this is not as complete of a team. And that was a game where A&M easily could have lost late if it wasn't for Le'Veon Moss making a couple explosive runs, some of the excellent play calling in the red zone. I always look back at that and think, they haven't played in Fayetteville since 2013. This entire, there's so many players in the past. That is, 2013, I was 19 years old. So I'm 31 now. So that's a long time ago, right? So it depends on how the atmosphere is going to be. And I think Kyle's right. We don't know how many Arkansas fans are going to show up. They haven't played at home given a while, so I haven't really seen that. I know that a lot of people, when they were who went to this Notre Dame game thinking they were going to get a better outing, left early after it was just like a 40-point blowout at that time. So you don't really know what the buy-in is with the fan base. You know what it is with the players, right? These guys are still playing for the future, playing hard. But I do think that A&M is going to have an advantage because when you're 6-0, undefeated in SEC play, everything is in front of you. Your championship goals, obviously getting into the college football playoff for the first time in program history. You see LSU isn't as good as they were advertised preseason. Missouri's kind of a mixed bag. You get South Carolina at home, you get Samford, then you get Texas, who you do believe you can beat this year, even on the road. Every goal is in front of you. And this was compared to last year, it was kind of random, right? When A&M started 7-1, we didn't really expect that. That's the thing. We just didn't expect it because it was the first year, the quarterback injuries, Connor Wegman being out, Marcel Reed getting his first starts. It's completely different now, but I do think that winning this game would further prove that A&M is one of the best teams in the country. And doing it against an offense that is nearly scoring 38 points a game, that's an even bigger statement. Because we can talk about how bad the defenses are all day, right? But if it's an offensive shootout, you have to win those games to prove that you can win in a variety of ways and that you can win on the road. And if they do that, A&M has claimed to say they are one of the best teams in the country.
And A&M's already done it once in a shootout when they went to Notre Dame. So we'll see how this one goes. And we would love to know all of your predictions down in the comments. So if you have your own predictions, please let us know. And we can't wait. It's going to be a very interesting Saturday.
And you can do that throughout the week because this video will be posted by tomorrow and cut up, and you'll have all the segments we talked about with Kyle and when we talked about recruiting, when we did the recap of Florida. So you'll have that throughout the week on Texas A&M Aggies Live, part of the Voice of College Football Network. As always, and we will be talking, we'll say that, brought up basketball at the end, we will be talking about SEC Media Days next week. That actually A&M speaks tomorrow. It's Bucky McMillan, Pop Isaacs, and Mackenzie Macombo. So we will get some of that tomorrow for next week. But as always, I'm Cameron Honesty. You can follow me at Cameron Honesty. You can always read all my work and my team's work at Aggies Wire, part of USA Today Sports and College Wires. He's Kannon Torres. You can follow him at Torres Kannon. Tell the people your Patreon.
Yeah, you can also follow me on Patreon for all your recruiting Texas A&M needs at Bell Tower Intel on Patreon. So that is Bell Tower or patreon.com/Bell Tower Intel. So covering a lot of the A&M basketball and football recruiting and insider.
Yeah, because Caleb Gaskins visited the game. Looked like he had a pretty good time. I'm telling you, I mean, it's very interesting to see when these guys go to football games and how McMillan is really embracing the football program and using all the tools he has to his recruiting advantage. So a lot of stuff coming out about that. But as always, another game week. Hoping this team can get it done. We have not seen them play on the road since Notre Dame. And again, if they can win this game, I think we'll be talking. We will go into next week pre-LSU, which is the biggest game of the season at that point thus far. It's going to be a night game in Baton Rouge. I had no doubt that was going to be the case when we announced it, because why not? LSU plays Vanderbilt this week. I think it's on the road, right?
It is on the road. It's at Vandy.
And Vanderbilt is a favorite in that game, which is just hilarious to say.
I love college football.
I love it, man. It's going to be fun. So that is the game to monitor, because if LSU does lose that game, they're going to be a 2-loss team. A&M could potentially, knock on wood, be an undefeated team facing them in Baton Rouge. So just all chaotic storylines, a lot of fun. But as always, guys, we'll be back next Tuesday night. Have a ton to cover. We'll be reviewing A&M's potentially win or loss. Well, hopefully that's not the case on Tuesday night as usual. And we will try to get LSU, someone from LSU as well. That's going to be fun. Yeah, so very interesting. But as always, guys, gig 'em. We'll see you next week.